I never thought of myself as a woman, therefore something, because I was in it. That journey actually requires a lot of effort. I think today women are making this choice.
You are the first female CEO of an automobile company in India.
It is not unusual for me to be in a room where I'm the only female. Call it out. Today the world is in a much different place. If you're a leader who is willing to listen and take the time and effort to answer the why we are doing this, I think that covers most of their gaps. At some point in my career, I did have to make a trade-off to quit one job with the hope of starting a family. I was practically traveling for 5 days a week, 5-6 flights a week. I had done that already for a year. I had not thought this. That's what blindsides you, right? Like first you have the child.
Before we start, I have a small favor to ask you. Don't forget to subscribe you so that we can grow our channel and you will get better content. Now, let's go back to the conversation. You are the first female CEO of an automobile company in India. Is that correct?
Professional CEO, yes.
Yeah. As a female leader in your career, what has been like some of the unique challenges that you faced?
See, for me personally, I have never thought about myself as female or male or any of that sort. And you join a profession for professional growth, right? You join work because you want to grow in the organization. And that's what has been always my focus throughout. So from the professional front, I have not seen any challenges. Where it started becoming a little challenging is when I decided to have a family and I wanted to spend time with my child. Then I think a little bit I had to find the right balance. What kind of role at that point allowed me to do both with some flexibility so that at least at the end of the day I felt satisfied that I am not shortchanging my work and I'm not shortchanging my family. It's different from trade-offs and compromises, which is a daily thing. But fundamentally, you shouldn't feel that you're less of a mother, you're less of an employee. So for that, there were periods in my career when I decided to change career or stay with a certain kind of profile, which gave me flexibility at work.
So you always try to find a balance between the two. But you never felt like gender biases or stereotypes?
I don't think you can say never. You always have, depends on the context, right? I have in automotive is very new for me, but I have had a much longer career before automotive and often in environments which are industrial or operations or factory oriented and where the vast majority of the people are men. It is not unusual for me to be in a room where I'm the only female. So when you are in that kind of context or environment, I don't necessarily say I felt biased, but yes, sometimes, sidelined, sometimes at the receiving end of microaggressions. And maybe sometimes people did it on purpose. And sometimes they did it just by not being aware, that this might not be the right thing to say to a person. So yes, I've been on the receiving end of a lot of these kind of smaller microaggressions. But nothing like systemic bias. I have been very fortunate to work with people and organizations which have promoted performance over anything else. So once you are focused on performance orientation, then then if the organization is truly performance oriented, then you don't have bias and all these other stuff associated with it.
If there's any women that are listening and they go through some issues with gender biases or some stereotypes, what is your advice to them?
Call it out. Today the world is in a much different place than it was, say, 20 years ago or 40 years ago. Maybe there was a period in time when you just couldn't speak up, right? And you felt very oppressed or you had to compromise. But in today's day and time, there is nothing that stops you from calling out. I think you have to do it in a professional, simple way. You have to say, hey, perhaps that was not appropriate. It's as simple as that, right? If you see someone saying a stereotype, you say, perhaps that was not appropriate in this context or in this forum or something. However, if there is systematic bias, and you know that others have tried before, and they have not been able to change it. I mean, it's up to you then. You can choose to try and make a group, a collective effort to change it. That's what I would do, because I don't accept much constraints. Or you can find something where you don't see this kind of a bias. You know, ultimately the organization has to value you for what you bring, and you have to like going there and working day in, day out for the benefit of the organization. So if you feel there is too much systematic bias, then you may want to question, is that where you want to spend the time? And I think today women are making this choice. I think it's very clear that people want to work where they want to work. They're gone are the days when only salary was enough to make people work. I'm sure there are several women in those contexts as well, but in general what I see is smart, professionally oriented women, they choose where they want to work. And I hope more and more women call out, if they see some stereotypes. And now there is a lot of policy support, right?
Exactly.
To do that. There is a way you can do that anonymously. There is a way you can do that explicitly. Depends on the magnitude of what is going on. But if you see sexual harassment, for example, it's a non-acceptable thing in any organization today.
Yeah.
If there is sexual harassment on that day, there is a mechanism in every organization. It's quasi-judicial. So the action has to be implemented. So it's a very strong process. At least I'm talking about companies like ours, which have large governance structures and history and so on. So if you see sexual harassment, there is nothing. You don't have to tolerate it for 1 minute. If there are minor stereotypes which you think you can just call out and educate your people around you, then feel free to do it. But if you think there is nothing you can do to change the environment, then you please change your own environment.
Yeah, I like it. Also today, I mean, with social media and companies are more, there's more transparency with social media and people talk about with each other, right?
I don't know if it's social media per se, but I think there is a growing awareness of the need for diversity.
True.
And companies have implemented policies. It is not, you don't have to put it on the internet. You have to just call the posh person and they will take care of it. So it's more about this inherent awareness that we do not tolerate, say, sexual harassment. And once that is clear in the company's governance, then anybody who faces it is addressed, right? A company is like a body, right? There are so many people who work there.
Yeah.
It might happen in pockets. You just have to have a redressal mechanism.
I like it. So the first is about speak up. Whenever that happens, speak up. And if you see that it's systemic, and then it's better to look for support, some groups to help you. And the third option is, if there's nothing to do, there's also a choice, right? Women can take the choice. Yeah, I really like that. And for you in your career to get here, what has been the most important skills or qualities that has helped you to get you where you are today?
Yeah, I do not think I've gotten very far. I am just in my journey, but perseverance and hunger to learn. I think those are the two things, right? Like, whatever happens, I believe in myself that we will get past this. Doesn't matter what the issue is. So you persevere. That is a very tenacious trait inside me, that if I pick up something, I will find a way to get it done. And the second is, I'm always open to learning and looking at new ideas and new things and listening to people who tell me, hey, maybe you can consider doing this in a different way. You will hardly ever listen to me saying or hear me saying, no, we will not try this. We'll say, try it, maybe, but with some thought process and some logical approach. But we should always be open to learning and experimentation.
I mean, you spoke about, so it's about, you had a lot of self-confidence in yourself.
Yes, definitely.
For women that might, sometimes they question themselves, or maybe they think they're not good enough. What is your advice to them?
You have to back yourself. If you don't back yourself, who else will back yourself? It's very straightforward in my view. But we must recognize that perhaps not everybody grew up in that kind of egalitarian family like I grew up in. In my family, it was like there was no differentiation if you're a man, boy, or a girl. I have a brother, but both of us were totally, both of you have to study hard, both of you have to perform in school, and both of you have to do extracurricular activity. There was no like, you are a girl, so you have to do something different. And I was probably very lucky to grow up in a household like that, where both my dad and mom always treated us as equal, in fact pushed us more. And once they saw I was maybe doing a little bit better in studies, pushed me even more. So
Nice.
so I have never faced this kind of, okay, you're a woman. But many people grow up in a society where the woman is maybe a second. Like, so my mother used to work and my dad and mom were very equal. When you see in a family, maybe your mom was not the equal. She was always sort of the secondary party. If you see that and if you grow up in that environment, then it's natural to have some self-doubt. And maybe that is it. And also, everyone gets feedback, right? It's how you accept and work on that feedback. So maybe I'm sitting with two people and I give the same feedback, perhaps the communication need to be better, and to both 2-3 people, and maybe the women takes it very personally, whereas others might be able to flick it off and say, okay, I'll work on that. So it depends on, this kind of individuals. But to me, fundamentally, if you do not back yourself, then nobody else will. You have to have deep belief and deep self-confidence that I have the skill sets that I need to deliver the role, job, personal, professional, whatever I am doing. I have seen sometimes women with less confidence, and I try to sort of coach them and mentor them. What is the reason? It's not that you are the worst or you are the best or you're in the middle. You would be one of the other, just like all the others. So why the difference in confidence levels? I don't know. Sometimes it's there inherent. Then they see, but I've seen some women with very good confidence levels, very confident of themselves and very sure that they can achieve, and they're willing to ask. And when you see those people, you want to support them and grow them. And when you see the others, you just have to motivate them that it's okay.
Oh, yeah. Something that I like, also like the way you started this conversation was, for you, you don't see like a male or female. You do your job, but I can see you have a lot of high self-confidence in yourself. But for women, that if they don't have that, what is the smallest thing that they can do in order to gain that confidence?
Self-affirmations help a lot.
Yes.
I think there are people who have seen the success of that you affirm, you wake up in the morning, look in the mirror, and you do the self-affirmations. So if you are really struggling at that age, you do that. Or before every meeting, please take a minute and prepare very hard how you're going to present yourself. How, often in meetings and all, sometimes you don't get a chance to participate. So if you are a little bit ready and you're prepared, walk in with a point of view, put in the extra effort. To me, first, I think not everyone is born with self-confidence, right? You grow with it. Like even in my first job, I was learning. But as you see your own abilities and you start trusting your own abilities, your own instincts, then your self-confidence starts developing. So for me, it was like this. You build it along as a journey. I've worked for many decades. So along the way, this has come about. It's not that it's inborn.
Yeah, and also what you said about one of your qualities, you are open to learn. Then you are open to feedback.
Yeah.
And also that's a way to gain confidence. It's like, okay, I'm here. I want just to get better a little bit. I welcome feedback, and and that little by little builds that small confidence that I think sometimes we need. Nice.
Heavy.
Let's go even deeper. What was the one of the most difficult decisions you took in your career?
There were quite a few, but at some point in my career, I did have to make a trade-off to quit one job and take another job with the hope of starting a family.
Oh.
So I did have to make that call. I was in a certain job which required very heavy travel. I was practically traveling for 5 days a week, 5-6 flights a week. I had done that already for a year, and it was not. I also wanted to have a child, so that lifestyle doesn't support you from even having a child, let alone taking care of them when they're born. So at some point, I decided that the choice for me will be to focus on having a family now, because it's a time-bound thing. If you postpone it too long, then you'll regret it.
Yeah.
So for that, I was on the cusp of of partnership in a firm, and then I just decided that that's okay. I need to do this now. This is my journey, and this is what I need to do now. And my mom, my dad, my husband, they all supported me very firmly in this journey, that even if it is not just for having a child, even for your personal health and mental well-being, you need to switch tracks. So it was a little tricky, because I had always thought that, I'm the one who will just drive the career up and up and up and keep going. Never in my life I had thought of lateral movements.
Oh.
So then this happened. I was in a second grade company, and then I had my child, and then I wanted a role that fulfills me a lot but reduces travel. So then the journey happened, and I was lucky to get a role where I really enjoyed myself. I did get the flexibility that I needed, and I was able to raise my child also. And I think sometimes when you're sure you need this, the universe manifests to give it to you. And I think that's what happened. And I've already spent like almost going to be 10 years in Mahindra Group. So that's when my child was 9 months old, I joined the group. So and that was the journey there. So quite lucky to have that as a option, but also quite sure that at that point that's what I needed. And it was difficult. It's not a choice that you think about when you are going through your education and you're top of class and you are winning those medals, and then you're going to your corporate career and you're thinking about promotions. You're in it. I never thought of myself as a woman there for something, because I was in it. I was just going, and then suddenly I'm like, oh, now I have to make a trade-off. And I've not thought this. That's what blindsides you, right? Like, first you have the child, which is still, you are still okay. And then when you have had the child, then you realize that the raising a child, it requires significant amount of your time and your emotions and everything. And doing that, and doing a job, and doing everything well, acceptable levels of well, whatever is your level, it takes a lot, and it often blindsides you that, what do you need to do you have to be there. You have to take care of the baby, and you have to raise the baby. And it's not just about the first few months, right? Not just till your maternity. After that also you have to be there. You have to be there at every juncture of their journey if that's why you wanted a child. So this kind of constant trade-off, that's I had not anticipated it would happen. But of course, it's a joyous journey, but I needed to be adjusting myself for that situation.
So what is interesting, I said, so you were very driven, and then you said, suddenly you understood, okay, maybe I can make a lateral move. Do you remember what changed? What was the moment that made you feel like, maybe something needs to change? What happened?
I honestly think it was very simple for me, because I was also physically tired from the travel.
Oh, I see.
So I needed just a break to heal myself physically.
Yeah.
And then simultaneously, these two elements were there in my career together, that I wanted a family and I was just tired. So it was just the natural thing to do, is to find something. And I had a great role that I was offered. All of it. It was a natural outcome. I didn't have to the time leading up to me making the decision was tough. But once I made the decision that I have to change, then it was all straightforward. But that difficult period was, just deciding that, it's time. Please now think of something else that will take care of you as a person along with your work.
So for women that are there where you were at that time, like what are some of the questions or that people can ask themselves to help them to take a decision when to have a baby, managing career? What's your advice?
These are all the things. It's very individual, right? It's very deeply personal, and different things motivate different people. So you have to trust yourself that you're making the right call. Where I see the challenge is a couple of things. I've seen this very interesting, that way before you're even thinking of having a child, you start thinking about, is this the right job for me? Will it allow me to get the flexibility maybe 7 years later when I'm thinking of starting a family, or 5 years later? And in the very beginning of the career, they start shortchanging. That is a problem in my view. You should please have the journey to the point where the decision is relevant and then do it.
Oh, I see.
I'm actually offering you the opposite. Stop asking yourself too many questions. Everything will work itself out. Just be focused on what you're doing now, and you listen to yourself when you're ready for the transition. Because what I see often with the younger women is they just get married and then they start thinking of, is this the right job? Should I move? Will I get flexibility when, several years later I will have a child? I think you have to be just clear that at the point of marriage that you want a career or not. If you want a career, you better be clear with your spouse that you want a career.
Yeah.
If you can do just that, then all the decisions will follow through. So instead of asking yourself too many questions, I suggest that, hold the questions, and when the time is right, you will understand what your personal preference is, what your choice is. And then no choice is incorrect, right? Some people have stepped completely off the workforce. Some people have chosen a more part-time, more flexible option. Some people have juggled to make it work, and because for me, I juggled a lot to make it work, because for me, it was not an option to stop or slow down or do any of those things. So it depends on who you are, what motivates you, and you will find the answer that suits you.
It's about be focused on what is in front of you, and then and also pay attention to what you are feeling right now, and in the right moment it will come, right?
Yeah, you have to be smart about it.
Yeah.
Right? You have to be smart about it. Now, if you're thinking of having a child and your job requires you to travel 5 days a week, probably not the right job. This doesn't require too much thinking. But maybe few years later you want to be, who knows what's going to happen 3 years from now? Why to give the trade-off now? So for me, I always say women need to raise their hand when opportunity is presented to them to do a newer role, to do a better role, and have the support system to support your personal side, right? Your family and your children and so on. Just be smart about it. Don't just obsess and overthink and so on.
Yeah, you spoke about the support behind, like for you, I mean, maybe how did you manage all the roles of like being a CEO of a company, being a mother, being a wife? How did you manage all that to
I mean, is there an option? You have to manage it. The fundamental point is you have to find a way that works for you. And I have been lucky. My spouse is extremely supportive, and I have a good, stay-at-home help, which I can afford, sort of high quality help. And wherever needed, my parents have jumped in to help us out as well. I don't know. I think if you say that there is no alternative, what is the right answer? And there you go. Like, the alternative is that I want to be the CEO, I want to be a good mother, I want to be available, and I want to take care of myself. If this is my construct of the problem, then I'm sure you will find a solution. Where do you need help? What kind of school? Where should the school be located? What kind of travel schedule is acceptable to it? What is the level of flexibility both of you need to have? I think it's a lot of discussion and negotiation and alignment of priorities. But I don't know, I think with my husband's support, it has never been, there was no situation in which this was not the outcome, right? We always knew that both of us want to have fulfilling careers, And if that was always a given, then we figured it out that whatever happens, sometimes you will push forward, sometimes I will push forward, and we will take the alternate primary role at home. I don't know.
Yeah, I know, but what I like about what you said something that I really enjoy, which is the first thing is that you need to be clear what you want, and you need to share that, so that everyone is aware about what you want.
Yes.
And then kind of work towards that, bring the people in that journey to make it happen.
Yeah, it's not an individual problem for me to solve, right? It is about, it's a collective thing.
Exactly.
And we are just talking about raising 1 or 2 children, right? That's the problem we are trying to solve while trying to retain careers. It is a solvable problem, let's be sure of that. So you have to be clear, that's what you want.
Yeah.
And if that's what you want, then you work with your colleagues, your employee, your supervisors, your subordinates, your spouse, your mothers, your mother-in-law, whoever in your network to make it happen. I have not been one who planned their career. So I have just had what I call the random walk. I have just done the next best thing that is presented to myself. It's not like there was a journey that I wrote. As I told you, the whole going to Singapore was because some of my friends had gone to Singapore and I applied for a scholarship and got it. And then going to US for my MBA was also because there was my neighbor also in my friend group who applied for GMAT. So he said, I'm applying for GMAT. I said, okay, then let me also apply for GMAT. And I prepared really hard because I'm quite a diligent, hardworking person. I prepared quite hard and I got a good score. And then I'm like, okay, then let me apply. And then I went to the US. So it was not like I had planned any of this. But it does feel in hindsight when you see that, there are different aspects of what you have learned along the journey that come together to help you do the job that you have done, right? In McKinsey, I did a lot of business transformation work, like really performance transformation work. In Accenture, I did a lot of technology work. And before, in between, I did some project management work. I think you learn along the way. How to manage business, you just learn. And today when I say it, I feel like I have many of the skill sets that I need to do this job well. And so it has just sort of naturally culminated. But it is not like I planned that I will be a CEO. It happened. And I always wanted to be one. I have to say that once I joined management consulting, that seemed like the natural goal. Yeah. And again, it's because, many people said that's the right thing to do. So that's the right outcome. So it was in my mind that that's the right goal. But the professional journey has only been driven by, like I told you, the desire to improve and the desire to learn, and a lot of diligence and hard work that has gone into it. So whenever an opportunity, and as you said, the confidence to take up new opportunities as they present to you.
So what do you think is the right balance for people to have a more planned career versus more live it a bit, what the opportunities that come?
Is there really an answer to that question? I think it depends on you. Depends on, even if you plan, it is unlikely to work towards your plan. But it depends on, how your journey, individual journey is. There are stages in everybody's career life, career, right? There's the early stage, and there's the middle stage, and then there is the closer to retirement, and there's all this post-retirement stuff that what can you do? You have to be sure of what you want to achieve, right? Like, I was sure that I will always work. And I never accepted any constraints to that question. And much later in the journey, then I realized that I cannot just work for promotion, I need to have some purpose. And that came a little bit later in the journey, that what is the purpose that drives you? What do you want to contribute? What do you want to leave behind? And then that, there's a different transition that happens.
And then from there, it was like one more opportunity. So, and I think there's an issue sometimes people think too much in the future and they forget to focus on what's in front of them. And you are relentless focusing on what was in front of you.
Yeah, there is one in doing something, and then there is one element of focus in how can I improve what I'm doing.
Yeah.
I think the latter is something that comes naturally to me. It's not that you're just doing it. I'm always thinking about, is there a way I could have done it better?
Yeah.
So that secondary aspect is important for improvement. Right? See, I also believe firmly that performance and impact, right? That's what drives your career.
Yeah.
The way you perform and what are you able to leave behind in that particular role is what drives anybody's career. So if you are, in order to deliver good performance, consistent performance all the time, you need to be always thinking of how to improve, and what you're learning. And if you have that kind of learning, improvement orientation, then it becomes a little easier. Then you don't need to plan like a linear path, but you need to plan that I will be tomorrow better than what I am today.
So you mentioned about at some point in your life you were looking for purpose, and it looks like you found that purpose. How finding that purpose changed your career?
See, I think I was really excited when I was given this role of a CEO in Last Mile. That time it was called something else. And as I went and interacted with a lot of my customers, I realized that they are getting a much higher quality of life because they're driving electric vehicles, they're saving a lot more money. In some cases, 20-30% higher than what they used to get before. And that started, making me think that, I've been lucky to be in a role which also pushes for sustainability, environmental impact, great, but also fundamentally improves the life of the person. And when, like that sort of becomes your North Star, and that is also in our purpose statement, we really believe in enabling our communities to rise along with us. So when that becomes sort of a goal, then you're not just doing this for, yes, you're doing this to grow your business and make profits and all that, but you're also doing this to contribute in a better way, to enable so much employment, so many lives and livelihoods, and team came together in a much happier, tighter way, and we continue to work towards that. I think we are driven by this goal to electrify the last mile of India, and we hope we'll get there someday.
So for women that are starting their careers, what are your 3 pieces of advice for them?
I think this women who are starting their career or men who are starting their career, the advice would be quite straightforward, right? That focus on impact or what you leave behind. This is very, very important. Build the network, build the network of supporters and mentors while you are doing it, so you have a little bit long-term trajectory. I think specifically for women, please raise your hand when opportunity presents itself. Don't second guess yourself. Yeah, that is a specific one for women. I think I don't see men having a problem with that. Maybe some men do, so they should also follow the advice, but don't second guess yourself.
Yeah, and specifically for women that are thinking of for leadership roles, like to become a CEO, what's your advice?
I don't know if there's any other different advice than constantly delivering on the performance bar so that you are always in the mix when organizations are looking at CEO candidate. The critical thing is, are you in the mix? If they are evaluating 5 people to take a role, are you in the mix? You have to be in the mix. If the answer is you need to be in the mix, then what do you need to do? You need to have a body of work where there is constant delivery. They must trust that it's a man or woman agnostic, right? They must trust that if she or he is given this role, then they will do it. So it's the same for a man or a woman whoever wants to be at the top of their professional career. They must be willing to put in the effort. They must know how to create the network of supporters and friends and mentors inside the organization. They must deliver impact, disproportionate impact. And I guess the other one that is sort of the hidden element is, I think what people remember is how you treated them during the journey, right? So you should not be hopefully the type that burns a lot of bridges to get to your goal post. It's important to have a collaborative sort of, we used to call it followership in different time in my career. Do you have a followership of people who want to work with you? Nobody wants to work with a person who is like a tyrant. You need to build a followership of people who want to go with you in this journey. So I think all these different mix, but I don't see how it is gender specific. In my view, it is gender agnostic.
I agree.
So you have to do all these different things, and hopefully you are in the mix and you are chosen as the best candidate to get to that job. So that's how it is done. It doesn't matter. The only challenge is if during the journey you have dropped out of the funnel, then you have to like do the hard work to step out of it. The challenge with women is not so much, they're just not enough in the second and third layer to be selected for higher roles. Typically at the mid-career level, many of them make very harsh compromises, possibly because they don't have the family support system or the organizational support system that is required. So when you make that harsh trade-offs mid-career, then it's quite difficult to carry forward, right? So many, hopefully, as the organizations are now much more supportive, like Mahindra has a fantastic set of women policies, maternity policy, flexible leave, and in general a culture which is supportive, right? It encourages many women to come. And I hope like in the next generation or so, you will see many more at the top, just because it becomes normal.
Yeah, and something for me, if I look back, one of the biggest learnings for me when I was going up in my career as to become a leader, I did everything what you were doing, but I would have done more about making sure that I'm in the mix. Because sometimes if you're not in the mix, you're not in the funnel to get there. And for that, we need to be smart.
You need to ask also.
Exactly.
You need to, the same thing that you have to do with your spouse when you discuss that I want my career, the same thing you have to do with your office colleagues that, hey, I am looking at professional growth. I want the next opportunity. What is it that the organization can offer in the next opportunity? So it's the same thing, right? If you know your priority and you are open to speaking up about it and creating an ecosystem of support, whether it is work at home, it's the same thing. You have to be consistent, right? If I really want to work, even and I don't want to make trade-offs around career because I have a child, family, etc. I speak to my family, right? I speak to my friends, I speak to my support system, and I make it happen. Same way, you want to grow in your career, you have to make it known that that is your aspiration. Then you will get feedback.
Exactly.
And when you get the feedback that will help you with growth, then you have to act on that feedback. Again, it's always at the end of the day about your performance and what people think about you and whether they think that you can do this job. Because you have not yet done the job, so nobody knows you can or cannot, but it is only about the level of confidence on you being able to do that job. Yeah.
So maybe I think you touched a little bit, but I would like you to give us a bit more from the company perspective. For example, how Mahindra is building a more inclusive environment to support like women to in their careers.
Yeah. See, traditionally, gender percentages have been very low in automotive, so it's it's one of our top priorities to build gender diversity, and yet do it in a way that is, let's say, not discriminatory against men. Because that often happens, like you don't want to go to a situation where people point fingers and you are there because you are a woman. That is very negative for the women who have made it on merit. So to do so, we do multiple things. I'll just talk to you different points. At every stage in the interview, we make sure, in the interview process, we make sure that there is a funnel of women. Meaning, if I have one job, I'm not going to just interview 10 men resumes. I want to have at least 3 women resumes out of that 10, and then may the best person win, right? So, but you add to the funnel, and that is a very hard thing because then you have to force the recruiters to find you women candidates. But I believe that once you find them, and because it's a little bit hard in today's day and age, you will find very good candidates. When you find very good candidates, naturally it gets selected in. Secondly, to support during the point of childbirth, which is a very important milestone for women. We have very good pregnancy policies, step up, step off, and step on into the off ramp and on ramp as you go into your career. We have flexibility, because you need flexibility not just in the maternity but subsequently to raise your children. So there are quite a few flexible work options, and you know, many times we have been very open to rotating people if that's what for personal reasons they want to go to a different location or different city, and as long as the business can support it, that has been also welcomed. So we put in a little bit extra effort to make sure that once you got them in on merit, that you are supporting them through the various life stages. So that's the other part. And then we are really looking at percentages of women at every analysis that we do and see if there is a dissonance. And if there is, then what do we need to do to fix it? So, but I think it's deliberate. I think it's important to have diversity in the room, to have different points of view in the room. And I think our entire leadership understands it, which is why we are slowly but steadily improving the percentages.
Yeah, and I think, I mean, here we are talking about gender diversity, but I think diversity is much more than that. And I think today a lot of leaders miss is also on the cognitive diversity. Yeah. So have people thinking different, you know.
Yeah, from different backgrounds.
From different backgrounds, agree.
Not just all mechanical, electrical engineers, but although if you are them, you may have natural biases, but that is also very important to have people from different walks of life, different skill sets. It actually helps a lot now that we're talking about electrification in the automotive industry, because it forces us to think about the different aspects. And then that has helped us bring like software engineers, which were not that important in this space. So now we have software engineers, this all kind of embedded system designers. They have not been part of this industry, but now they are coming in. So they're bringing in a lot of different perspectives of how they work.
Yeah, and you know something that you do and also I do in my company, and that's where a lot of companies fail, and it's very simple to start, is to have a target on the pool of candidates. If you have a target of what the number of women that you want to have, it's a great beginning. And then let the candidates, whoever is the best. But that's a small one. I do that now, and it works really, really well.
Great.
Yeah, very good. We're coming to the end, and my question is, like, if you have like what would be your piece of advice for your 20-year-old?
Yeah, that everything will work itself out. Have more fun. I think I'm sure of this one, because as we already discussed, right, that I was a very driven type A person, and I could have enjoyed more. I could have spent more time, you know, doing the things that I love outside of work. So I think my 20-year-old would be told that have more fun, enjoy the journey as well, and that's where I'm now, currently in that stage where I'm enjoying the journey as I'm doing it. So this is a much better place to be than to be worried about, you know, your next promotion, your next milestone, your next project. So a little bit enjoy and stay in the moment. I think that's the grown-up advice that every grown-up will give to their children. It's okay.
Things will work out. Just enjoy the journey.
Just enjoy the journey. Yeah.
Very good. So, like, the final question is: what is the one message that you want people to remember from our conversation?
That women should back themselves and raise their hand as opportunities come forward, and believe that they shall be able to deliver.
What a wonderful way to end our conversation. It was a pleasure to have this conversation with you. Thank you so much for coming.
Thank you so much. It was wonderful to be here.